Haven't done any video in a while. I've got a bajillion things on my mind. Here you see me in my natural habitat, which is my garage. A garage. And I have intentions to cover a million things. I, you know, I'm not one to really stick to any one topic, and that, sometimes I guess that means not always the, I guess it's not always best up. Yeah, try not to say so much, but, I can't help that. What you're hearing in that hissing, airy, the sound of a pump cloning plants. So here we go. Let's first look at the page here. Just scanning my pages for where the streams are going. I can see that this one is up there. Let's see if the sound is coming through. Oh yeah, there we have. We have a pretty decent sound there. It's blasting in my headphones, not nearly as loud as it is in. Yeah, but that's good. Good enough there. The stream's looking okay. Got this pile of VeggieTales videotapes out here. Very sightly. Some paper towels. Anybody need a paper towel? Oh yeah, we have a pretty decent sound there. Nice. Okay. Checking the tweets, the twats, tweet twat, twatter. I won't be able to follow along on all those streams. I'm just checking in to make sure that they're coming through. I don't know. I'm gonna see about installing the Restream app on my tablet here. Maybe I think it might collate all those streams into one outlet. So, oh man, I lost a lot of followers on Twitter. By a lot, I mean 10. I don't follow back, or so. The weeds there on that one. So all this I'm gearing up for a number of different video projects. I'm thinking about a couple things. First, just a daily like podcast type newsy thing, where I incorporate just sort of my daily pattern, maybe commenting on the news. I'm a huge news buff and theology buff, and so I might, depending on what my day is looking like, I'm yeah. I don't know how much time I have here today. I don't know what I'll cover, but there is a letter that came out recently. I might read that actually. I might start off just by reading that. Oh, a cardinal. Thinking about reading that. Open letter to the president. Then I have here in my possession a Yamaha AN200. I'm going to teach myself how to use it. I've not really spent much time on it, and so I'm hoping to, not nearly as much as the RS7000 I have inside at my other station. Open letter to the President of the United States of America. This is from, his name is Carlo Maria Vigano, Nuncio to the United States of America, Archbishop of Ulpiana, Roman Catholic bishop. Says, Mr. President, allow me to introduce you at this hour. No, excuse me. Allow me to address the fate of the whole world as being threatened by a global conspiracy against God and humanity. I write to you as an archbishop, as a successor of the apostles, as the former apostolic nuncio to the United States of America. I'm writing to you in the midst of the silence of both civil and religious authorities. May you accept these words of mine as the voice of one crying out in the desert. As I said when I wrote my letter to you in June, this historical moment sees the forces of evil aligned in a battle without quarter against the forces of good. Forces of evil that appear powerful and organized as they oppose the children of light, who are disoriented and disorganized, abandoned by their temporal and spiritual leaders. Daily we sense the attacks multiplying of those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect for human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pandering to this suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of Christians and believers are denied in the name of a health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny. A global plan called the Great Reset is underway. Its architect is a global elite that wants to subdue all of humanity, imposing coercive measures with which to drastically limit individual freedoms and those of entire populations. In several nations, this plan has already been approved and financed. In others, it is still in an early stage. Beyond the world leaders who are the accomplices and executors of this infernal project, there are unscrupulous characters who finance the World Economic Forum and Event 201. That's a new one. I have not heard that. Event 201. Promoting their agenda. That's page 1. The purpose of the Great Reset is the imposition of a health dictatorship aiming at the imposition of liberticidal measures, the killing of liberty, hidden behind tempting promises of ensuring a universal income and canceling individual debt. Well, the price of these concessions, and it seems like a weird thing to have a problem with, is the canceling of individual debt. I'm totally all for that, dude. The price of these concessions from the International Monetary Fund will be the renunciation of private property and adherence to a program of vaccination against COVID-19 and COVID-21 promoted by Bill Gates with the collaboration of the main pharmaceutical groups. Beyond the enormous economic interests that motivate the promoters of the Great Reset, the imposition of the vaccination will be accompanied by the requirement of a health passport and a digital ID with a consequent contact tracing of the population of the entire world. Those who do not accept these measures will be confined to detention camps or placed under house arrests, and all their assets will be confiscated. Mr. President, I imagine that you are already aware that will be activated between the end of this year and the first trimester of 2021. For this purpose, further lockdowns are planned, which will be officially justified by a supposed second and third wave of the pandemic. You are well aware of the means that have been deployed to sow panic and legitimize draconian limitations on individual liberties, art-wide economic crisis, and the intentions of its architects. This crisis will serve to make the recourse of nations to the Great Reset irreversible, thereby giving the final blow to a world whose existence and very memory they want to completely cancel. But this world, Mr. President, includes people, affections, institutions, faith, culture, traditions, and ideals, people and values that do not act like automatons, who do not obey like machines, because they are endowed with a soul and a heart, because they are tied together by a spiritual bond that draws its strength from above, from that God that our adversaries want to challenge, just as Lucifer did at the beginning of time with his non serviam. Many people, as we well know, are annoyed by this reference to the clash between good and evil and the use of apocalyptic overtones, which, according to them, exasperates spirits and sharpens divisions. It is not surprising that the enemy is angered at being discovered just when he believes he has reached the citadel that seeks to conquer undisturbed. What is surprising, however, is that there is no one to sound the alarm. The reaction of the deep state to those who denounce its plan is broken and incoherent, but understandable. Just when the complicity of the mainstream media had succeeded in making the transition to the New World Order almost painless and unnoticed, all sorts of deceptions, scandals, and crimes were coming to light. Until a few months ago, it was easy to smear as conspiracy theorists, in quotes, those who denounced those terrible plans, which we now see being carried out down to the smallest detail. No one up until last February would ever have thought that in all our cities, citizens would be arrested simply for wanting to walk down the street to breathe. to want to keep their business open, to want to go to church on Sunday, close on Sunday, yo, my Chick-fil-A. Yet now it is happening all over the world, even in picture postcard Italy, that many Americans consider to be a small enchanted country with its ancient monuments, its churches, its charming enchanted country with its I just read the same line second over. Charming cities, its characteristic villages. And while the politicians are barricaded inside their palaces, promulgating decrees like Persian satraps, businesses are failing, shops are closing, people are prevented from living, traveling, working, and praying. The disastrous psychological consequences of this operation are already being seen, beginning with the suicides of desperate entrepreneurs and of our children segregated from friends and classmates, told to follow their classes while sitting at home alone in front of a computer. In sacred scripture, St. Paul speaks to us of the one who opposes the manifestation of the mystery of iniquity, the katechon. In the religious sphere, this obstacle to evil is the church, and in particular the papacy. So this is the problem with, yo, my Catholic people, you don't understand yet, do ya? Particularly the papacy in the political sphere, it is those who impede the establishment of the New World Order. As is now clear, the one who occupies the chair of Peter, I would quote that, as has betrayed his role from the very beginning in order to defend and promote the globalist ideology, supporting the agenda of the deep church, who chose him from its ranks. Mr. President, you have clearly stated that you want to defend the nation, one nation under God, fundamental liberties, and non-negotiable values that are denied and fought against today. It is you, dear President, who are the one who opposes the deep state, the final assault of the children of darkness. For this reason, it is necessary that all people of goodwill be persuaded of the epochal importance of the imminent election, not so much for the sake of this or that political program, but because of the general inspiration of your action that best embodies in this particular historical context. Sure. That world, our world, which they want to cancel by means of the lockdown. Your adversary is also our adversary. It is the enemy of the human race, who is a murderer from the beginning. Around you are gathered with faith and courage those who consider you the final garrison against the world dictatorship. The alternative is to vote for a person who is manipulated by the deep state, gravely compromised by scandals and corruption, who will do to the United States what Jorge Mario Bergoglio is doing to the church, Prime Minister Conte to Italy, President Macron to France, Prime Minister Sanchez to Spain, and so on. The blackmailable nature of Joe Biden, just like that of the prelates of the Vatican's magic circle, will expose him to be used unscrupulously, allowing illegitimate powers to interfere in both domestic politics as well as international balances. It is obvious that those who manipulate him already have someone worse than him already, with whom they will replace him as soon as opportunity arises. And yet, in the midst of this bleak picture, this apparently unstoppable advance of the invisible enemy, an element of hope emerges. The adversary does not know how to love, and it does not understand that it is not enough to assure a universal income or to cancel mortgages in order to subjugate the masses and convince them to be branded like cattle. This people, which for too long has endured the abuses of hateful and tyrannical power, is rediscovering that it has a soul, It is understanding that it is not willing to exchange its freedom for the homogenization and cancellation of its identity. It is beginning to understand that the value of familial and social ties of the bonds of faith and culture that unite honest people. This great reset is destined to fail because those who planned it do not understand that there are still people ready to take to the streets to defend their rights, to protect their loved ones, to give a future to their children and grandchildren. The leveling inhumanity of the globalist project will shatter miserably in the face of the firm and courageous opposition of the children of light. The enemy has Satan on its side, he who only knows how to hate. But on our side, we have the Lord Almighty, the God of armies arrayed for battle, and the most holy Virgin, who will crush the head of the ancient serpent. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Mr. President, you're well aware that in this crucial hour, the United States of America is considered the defending wall against which the war declared by the advocates of globalism has been unleashed. Place your trust in the Lord, strengthened by the words of the Apostle Paul. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. To be an instrument of divine providence is a great responsibility for which you will certainly receive all the graces of state that you need, since they are being fervently implored for you by the many people who support you with their prayers. With this heavenly hope and assurance of my prayer for you, for the First Lady, and for your collaborators, with all my heart I send you my blessing. God bless the United States of America. Carlo Maria Vigano, titulary Archbishop of Vigano, former Apostolic Nuncio to the United States of America. So yeah, really interesting letter. Dude has written many letters like this to the president and even to the Pope. And there is a letter that I will. I don't know if it's a letter. It might be a letter. It probably is, but he made a video of himself reading this letter, and which I'll post in the comments after this video. I'll have to go back over the videos and dial in some things. But yeah, but I recommend you can probably just go and find it at some point and watch it from that guy. I should probably remember his name. It's hard being American and I don't speak Italian. And of course I've got hiccups now. One moment, please. Excuse me. Coffee. So, I have in my coffee a really awesome product called Mojo that you can get on my Trenaut page, which is For Thy Namesake, trenaut.com/For Thy Namesake. And it's just an awesome sort of sweetener. I put it in my coffee as a sweetener. You can actually just drink it on its own like it's hot chocolate. You just put a package in your cup with hot water and make hot chocolate with it. It's really good.
There was no more tortillas, so it's just like a plate of food.
Cool. That's fine.
You want salsa or tapatio or something?
Sure, you want to layer a bunch of shit on there?
I'll bring it to you because I don't want to spill that.
Alright. So, here's the thing about this with the New World Order. Thanks, my darling. I love you. Got a hell of a plate here. got eggs and ground beef and olives and rice just all piled on this plate. Now I'm dumping hot sauce on it. So I'm streaming to you now from my son's laptop that he just got. So this is basically a test of how well this thing performs. But anyway, that chocolate sweetened Mojo, there's actually another option for it. This is like just a coffee, kind of like an instant coffee. Instant coffee is the number one product in terms of people consuming coffee. More people consume instant coffee than brewed coffee. And this stuff has excuse me. Some awesome supplements and enzymes in it. Great for your digestion. Great for your energy. Let me go get the package. I'll read off the package. Mojo Chocolate is a delightful cocoa flavored drink that delivers the unique vitality blend of 8 naturally derived ingredients to help you boost energy, burn fat, and improve your mood. Just says for best results, add 1 scoop into an empty glass, fill with water or milk, and mix well. Mojo Chocolate is a delicious drink enjoyed hot or cold. So we have some ingredients here. Cocoa, Adventurous Z, citrus aurantium, green tea extract, PEA, beta phenylethylamine HCl, alpha size, alpha glycerol, phosphorylcholine, green coffee bean extract, L-theanine, Chromax, chromium, polynisotinate. Other ingredients, natural flavors, coconut oil, powder, and stevia. So anyway, it's really good. In the mornings now, I'll have a scoop of this in my coffee with some almond milk. And then I take one of these probiotic enzymes. Then I'm not having more than like 1 or 2 meals a day. They're usually big meals, hefty meals, but I don't really feel like I need to have a whole lot of food. I feel like that's kind of a bit of a system we've been programmed to believe that, like, oh, you need to have 3 meals a day. Like, I don't believe that, really. I mean, of course, I'm not going to tell anybody. I know that I tend to be more active, actually, when I'm not eating a lot. And I'm a big dude. I need to cut the weight anyways. And I don't know. It's just been really effective for me to not eat as much and to instead consume things that are going to better digest the food that I do eat. I can't really eat, like I want to be eating more of leafy greens and vegetables and high enzyme fruits and vegetables, your melons, your gourds, squash, zucchini, things like that. Um, but I just don't. So like right now, this plate of rice, eggs. I mean, lots of protein here. Olives is the only like vegetable, and but I can supplement with my supplements. I get really great digestive enzymes and probiotics to kind of counterbalance what I lack in my diet. So, but I recommend you check out my page. You can look around on there for. I really wanted to get involved in something like that, offering to people. Uh, you know, I really care about your health. I really care about our health. I care about our strength, and that kind of come to. All these things are connected to me, especially in terms of like Archbishop Nuncio, or what is his name? I'm gonna get his name. I'm gonna remember his name. I'm gonna commit it to memory because I owe this guy at least my mind. He's talking about another thing. He's very open about talking about a new world order, and in this case, he's talking about health and the health dictatorship. It is a health dictatorship, and it's something that's been really active for a really long time. It's nothing new. It's not. It seems that way because it's getting a lot of attention that it didn't get before, other than like, back page channels on YouTube. Like he says, conspiracy theorists. Archbishop Vigano. I'm pretty sure it's with a hard j sound. Vigano. Victor Indigo Golf Alpha November Oscar. And that health dictatorship, they want you pumped full of all their chemicals, very sterilization. You want lots of chemicals on everything, the things that kill bacteria, kill viruses, so forth and so on. But I believe in a different approach to health, one that's not so much killing all my enemies around me, but more just about protecting myself from them. And that means reinforcing your cells, understanding that you as an individual are made up of trillions of other individuals that are the cultures of your body. And recognizing that, this is that you are tied to the greater macro sense of the cosmos in the way that you respond to your micro experience of the cosmos inside yourself, namely your body. That you as an observer are related to these other observers that make up your experience along with you. You're never. And the cells that make up your body, they need things to protect themselves from the dangers of and perils of existence. And when you reinforce the things that they need to protect themselves, you strengthen them, you give them more energy, and thereby give. And the more energy it has, not only can it protect itself, but it can actually instigate growth in a way that can be healing. And they build up those cell walls. Those cell walls get what they need, and then they can go around and find other problems in your body and correct them. So there's, there's an information chain. I'm very big on what the Bible says about, the what the Gospel of John says is the Word. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. And I tie that to the words spoken in Genesis, where it says, in the beginning, God said, let there be, and it was. Let there be light. Let there be the heavens and the earth. Let there be the birds and that by his word everything is created. In his wisdom, God created the heavens and the earth. So I believe in this stuff, and I believe in it not just because of some mental assent to something that I don't have evidence for. I believe in it because the evidence is very strong, suggesting that this is the case, that the creative energies of the universe, that which generates the universe, all things, your experience, and everything around you, comes from this creative, this logos, which is logos is where we get the word logic from. It's rational, it's reason, it's the whole closed loop of information and translation of the information. So observation, and then and perception, and that converts to understanding. You can understand the information. That information is useful to you because you're able to interpret it and use it to your benefit and act upon it. You have action. You have all these things. So spiritual things are important to me because they have a very impact on the way that I live my life, on the things that I think, on how I interpret the information around me. How, that's where a lot of people have problems with fake news. They like to look at the news and fake news, hashtag fake news. Everybody's worried about fake news. Well, when you have the spiritual tools to understand information, fake news becomes not such a scary thing to you anymore, because you understand it's all subject to this finite paradigm that is at the mercy of the infinite. And that so there's nothing to worry about as long as you're willing to honestly consider the whole picture and have a transcendent view of facts, people, natures, patterns. So, a lot about the way that we consume not just information, but also food, entertainment, anything that goes into our senses, that we receive into our senses, is all part of that communication chain. That there's no separation between me and my point as an observer, and going all the way back in time to the very first spark. Let there be light. Like there's that wave of information of the logos speaking, that energy that emerges out of the abyss, manifesting all of creation. Well, why did he do that? So that he could have a place to be. Who was, who is, who shall be. Wanted some place to be, somewhere in time and space. And he wanted to be with people that he loves and creatures that he can care for. And here we are. And so another end of that is about goodness and what is good and what is evil and all that. And the worried about, lots of people worried about what's good and what's evil. And there's a lot that I've wrestled with that for a long time. But just to kind of sum up something, or just to plant a bit of a seed of an idea, is that another reason why I think that health is really important is that there's a good way for things. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was listening to another really good thing I'm going to put in the comments after this. Is video done by a feller named Nehemiah Gordon. And he's been going along with another fella, I believe his name is Keith Johnson, and they look at the original Hebrew text of Matthew, and they've actually been doing a transliteration too, that you can, when you sign up for their when you sign up for their program, their whatever they have set up, you can have access to their transliteration. You can download it and have a interlinear between the Hebrew and the English, and the thing that we call Keith Johnson, BFAinternational.com, NehemiahsWall.com is spelled without. A lot of people spell Nehemiah with an H after the A, but it's NehemiasWall.com. NehemiahsWall.com. So there's no H after the A in Nehemiah. So they were talking about how, from Hebrew perspective, what the language is in Hebrew, the way to understand the devil or Satan is not to understand him as being this arch rival of God, but instead to see him as a servant of God. And, I've heard that in teachings too growing up, and a lot of pastors have said that. I've heard them. And then they'll go, the thing is about, this is the frustrating thing for me, like, here's the thing about Cardinal, or it's not a cardinal, he was Archbishop. What's his name? We're going to remember it. Vigano. Not vagina. Vigano. And I'm hungry. Oh, up a minute. I'll pick up where I left off. Here's another one you can get on trainot.com/for thy name's sake. It's called Vibe. True energy and clarity. I'll read the synopsis. It says, increase energy and mental focus naturally by giving your body the nutrients to help during high stress, gloomy days, brain fog, and exhaustion. Supposed to take 4 capsules a day. Says we got thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, folate, vitamin B12, biotin, pantothenic acid, choline, zinc, copper, manganese. Those last few elements, that's something I'm deficient in zinc. So I've been trying to get my zinc up. So I'm super thankful to Janet. I won that because I ordered some samples of a CBD product that is also on the brizzopure.com / for that namesake. You can see the Brizzo Pure products we got there, but it's a water-based CBD product, not oil-based, that absorbs into your body. You get a full spectrum CBD benefit there for your body. Unlocks all your genetics, tells your cells to do what they need to do, and you will see inflammation go down. People who are like diabetic, have or joints, you'll see a lot of that go down. So it's really good stuff. All right. So anyway, so I take one of those with my meals. Here's the thing with this New World Order stuff, and religion. I don't belong to any particular church denomination as the way we understand church and Christianity and religion today, particularly Christianity. And I don't know how popular it is. I don't really look at the numbers. People are leaving the churches. I mean, that's something that does come up quite frequently. A lot of those people that are leaving churches are actually going to Catholic churches, and particularly Eastern Orthodox. It's like the fastest growing Christian denomination. If you don't count Mormonism as a denomination, which I don't really. Although I've come to see Mormonism a lot differently than I used to. I used to have a bit of a, what do you say? Not hostility, but I had a bone to pick with Mormons for some reason. I just didn't like what they were about. But that's because I'm an opinionated guy. But the thing about with church and religion is, and the traditions, I see myself as a child of the traditions. I have every right to comment. I see myself as having every right to comment on the different traditions, different religions that stem from Christianity. I affirm and confess a Holy Apostolic Catholic faith. I believe that's a real thing. I believe that's what I inherit. I believe that's what I practice. I believe that's the faith that I have. I believe there's only one faith. I believe there's only one church. I do not think, I do not see at all how, and I do believe that those things are manifested on the earth in a way that we are to observe and interact with, on earth as it is in heaven. What people call today the Roman Catholic Church, or even the Eastern Orthodox Catholic Church, those things are constructs that have more to do with a political agenda and inherit their function from a political apparatus, and which goes back to its inception in Rome. After they killed the last Jewish bishop of Jerusalem, who was related to Jesus. His name's Judah of Christ. You can check him out. Judah Kyrios. Yehuda Kyrios. He is a figure that is very unrecognized, I would say, in the church, uh, as being the last bishop of Jerusalem, and he was slaughtered when he flew from persecution. And that's supposed to be the last we hear about basically anybody who's familially related to Jesus. And then after that, they appoint a Greek bishop to that that position. And then you don't have another Jewish bishop over the seat of Jerusalem again. I see that as being tied to the political influence of Rome, where things shift from a Jerusalem primacy, an Antiochian primacy, to a Roman primacy. And what develops in the next 150 years, 200 years, at the Council of Nicaea, you don't really hear a whole lot about the Bishop of Rome. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Bishop of Rome is not even at the Council of Nicaea. You'll even hear some Catholics say that it's not even an ecumenical council because the Bishop of Rome was not there, and therefore, doesn't have the authority of other councils. I think that's missing the point altogether. I don't see that council as having anything to do with the faith of the apostles. I think they canonize some good stuff. I think in terms of canon and theology, I have no problems with. I don't even have any problems with the Trinity. I really don't. A lot of people these days are like, "Oh, the Trinity is a Roman thing, pagan deal." I don't know. The Trinity is helpful for me theologically because I think it's important to understand that, while there's one God, that one God is a communal God. He is a relational God, and he has set out a very distinct plan to participate and be involved with his creation, namely human beings who he interacts through and with to establish a certain purpose on the earth. And so one of the things about God, Elohim, Yahovah, I talk a lot about, Good Godfather as a band is as a brand. I brought that formulation of words out of my understanding of what is, we can look at God's name, right? And we can look at Yahovah, the name, who was, who is to come. And that's great, really awesome that our identity is rooted in this identity that is the identity of all identities. That, like a giant seed, identity is this, think of it as a giant cell, an egg, and that hatches into all these other identities that get their identity from this mother identity, father identity, in this case father identity, that then births all of creation. And so we all are these little pockets of identity inside the maximum all-encompassing identity, which we call God. So I was just like, where do we get this idea of God from? A lot of people are like, oh, there's their God. whatever, God. And I just wanted to try to understand the word. So I was just trying to, I went back through, where does the word God come from? Well, it comes from an Eastern European gospel authored to the Goths by a guy named Ulfias in roughly the 5th century. And he uses the word gut, which is G-U-T, which is like a G backwards, kind of upside down L, a W, and then a T, gut. And it actually is the same word as, it's where we get the word good from. Good and God are the same. And they have the same meaning, which is to conjure. It's a conjuring, means to like bring forth, to bring into existence. And then good, the good aspect of that, how it's related, is that it's good because it's useful. So this usefulness that happens, that occurs, and is conjured, and it is brought forth, So a God is someone who brings forth usefulness. Like, it's good, like good in the sense that, a rake is good for raking a garden. A lighter is good for starting a fire. A mouse is good for clicking around on a computer. So that word God and good. So we got good, and we got God, and we got Father. He's the Father of all. He brings forth useful goodness, and he does that, and he does that from his logos, from his wisdom, logic. That there's a reason for it, and part of what the whole word play is that you really see in the Gospels, and the way that they articulate all this stuff, especially in the Gospels, the Gospel of John and the letters of John, is there's this word game, I like to call it. It's like a word game, word play game, all throughout the scriptures. It's all throughout theology, where what makes the Bible so cohesive, even though it's 60, 70 plus books written across millennia, thousands of years, which, max, people say, if we're looking at some people would say it's conservative, I would say it's liberal. Liberal estimates of saying, okay, well, the oldest text is 5th century, most modern texts 1st century AD. Others would say 2nd century. So 500, 600, 700 years, but written in languages across 3 different continents. Every genre that you can think of. What makes it so cohesive is in the power of these words, and the way that they're put together, and the words that are used, and the way that they're understood, the way they're applied in the text, and the way that the readers to interpret and understand the words in the text. So the Logos, when you're created in the Logos image, he's got his reason for creating the world. Well, what's ours? What's we talking about what's our purpose? And the way I understand it is that, the purpose is to to determine your own purpose. That's the will that God gives, the freedom that God gives you. Delight yourself in Yahovah, I am, who was, who is, who shall be. Delight yourself in that identity of your place in the world, of you have this power with your words and with your actions to make visible things that are invisible, like reason. Reason is invisible. You can't see it happens in your mind. You take in information and then you apply reason to it in the process of interpreting the information. But largely what is determined by that information is your own responsibility, your own action, your own involvement in it. So you are determining the reason. You are determining the purpose. So what's the purpose? So purpose is to find a purpose. The reason is to find the reason. That's the work that's prepared for us before the dawn of time, before the foundations of the earth. That we as being created in God's image are left this open task along with the Father of all to mine out these reasons. And one of those things is also good. What is good? What it can be determined to be good or not. Well, something to think about with what is good and what is not good, or accepting things that are good. A lot of people have this idea that good things are not meant for them, that, we're just destined to suffer. And, the only real way that you're a follower of Christ is if you're suffering. And I think that is a very Western approach. Like a lot of people talk about the creed, the Nicene Creed, and how it starts at the birth, born of a Virgin Mary, skips all the way to the death, and everything in between is left out, right? I believe in, the virgin birth and that Christ is crucified, right, at the hand of Pontius Pilate, raised again from the dead. What is missed out is all, and I think that's really important because that sheds light on the goodness. Because when you have, say, like a husband who has a gift for his wife, something he put a lot of time and energy into, he's convinced that she's going to love it. He really loves her. She ought to really love him. And he is sure, man, she's going to be blessed by this. I'm going to give her this awesome gift. It wishes for her and puts a lot of thought and energy into giving to her. And then he gives it to her. He offers to give it to her. But she doesn't want it. She doesn't like it. She doesn't think that it's good. I see that as being, we would interpret that as like, wow, that's rude. That's very rude. That's very inconsistent. This husband is obviously very loving and caring and wants to show goodness to his wife, and his wife isn't willing to receive it. Wow, she's really stubborn. She's really thoughtless. How could somebody be so selfish and inconsiderate? Well, that's the way I see that purpose for us in our life, and the things that we endure, that we suffer. A lot of people will say, like, wow, that's really selfish of you to suffer things so that you can receive something good at the end of the day, at the end of all that suffering. And you say, like, wow, God, why? That's awful manipulative of you. Why would you do something why would you reward that suffering with something good? Shouldn't people just suffer just for the sake of suffering? And I would say, like, well, that's a very cynical perspective, because here God is wanting to give you something good and has every intention to, but there's this thing that's in the way that obstructs him from giving that to you, and that largely has to do with the power that he's given to us, what we've inherited from God in our will, in our free will, in our power to choose, to determine, reason, ration, motivation to determine these things. We're all doing it. We're all doing it at a constant level. We're all constantly in a state of processing, what is reasonable, what is right or wrong, or what should our motivation be, what should my agenda be, what should my ambition be, what actions should I take, what values should I hold. And so then you got the very, what we call evil, what are evil people, and they through the exercise of their will and their power and authority that's given to them, the same as all the rest of us, they use that to obstruct the good things that our Father wants to give us, good things. And so therefore, we, like he was through Christ, had to endure the suffering for the hope that was set before him. Wasn't it selfish to want that hope? Well, no, not really. Not if it's more selfish to not want the hope, because here God has put in a lot of, our Father, our divine husband, our heavenly husband, has prepared good things for us out of a desire to recognize who we are in relationship to him. That he put in a lot. He himself suffered all the toil of creating the world to be a beautiful gift for all of us to enjoy together in harmony. And it could be, for the thing that it could be, what it's promised to be. Once it all comes out, it'll all come out in the wash. It'll all come out. It'll all pan out in the end to be the good thing that it's intended to be, because that's the thing that it's intended to be by the one who created it. And so, like it says, so that for me outlines what this means in this text here. Here's the awesome thing about the internet. I feel like I don't have to spend as much time memorizing like verses and where they are. I mean, I feel like I've filled up my head with knowing so much about Bible and Bible verses that I've become virtually useless on anything else. So I put as much pressure on myself to memorize verses, especially since I have the internet. But I have a bunch of different Bibles, and so it says, for the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. Here, 20. Oh, here he goes. Starting at verse 18. I'm in Romans chapter 8, verse 18. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that is to be revealed to us. So in comparison, there's a glory. Glory I look at as being likened to, similar to image and glory. The glory and image of God. Men are created in the glory and image of God. Human beings are, men, male and female, in the glory and image of God. He created them, male and female. So there's this glory image that that is to be revealed in us. For the anxious longing of the creation waits eagerly for the revealing of the sons of God. And that largely has to do with what we're willing to endure, what we're willing to suffer. We've suffered as a people, as a species, for as long as we have. For the creation was subjected to futility not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself also will be set free from its slavery to corruption into the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now. And not only this, but also we ourselves, having the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting eagerly for our adoption as sons, the redemption of our body. For in hope we have been saved, but hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what he already sees? For if we hope for what we do not see, with perseverance we eagerly wait for it. So there it is. There's that hope of a glory, because of the one who subjected us to futility. And that goes back to what I was saying about Nehemiah's commentary on, he's going to Job, in the book of Job, that I have created good and evil, I have created it. There is no, or no, he's not talking to Job, he's talking to the is it Cyrus, Persia? Anyway, I'm gonna post a link in the comments. That, a lot of people have a problem with like God being this source of everything evil, and therefore he's this evil God up in the heavens, manufacturing this evil because he's like, I want to toy with everybody, because I want to create all these little creatures that I can toy with and give them some good things sometimes, and then other times, for the most part, it's just shit. But I don't see it that way. I see it as, I think what the cross reveals is that good and evil, though they come from the same source, and it's important to acknowledge that good and evil are present inside of everyone and everything. There's a potential there of this or that, life or death. See, because God wants us to be more concerned about what life or death is, because that's where our battle is against evil. Because what is evil produces death, what is good produces life. God, if he's this, maniacal, twisted psycho, he wouldn't be able to create anything. It's logically incoherent. If he's constantly this source of death and destruction, nothing would come into being. But when you look in creation, life overwhelmingly overcomes death on a constant basis. Here we are, looking at people who are worried about overpopulation. Why are people worried about overpopulation? Because life overcomes death. There are more people being born than are dying. And that's, you can go, that's why cells are able to reproduce the way that they do, because life thrives and death settles some kind of score of corruption. And so, this thing about evil and death, we want evil to stop, and we want to overcome evil with good. And I think that is a testament to God's nature. You know, that yes, he's the author of good and evil, but for as a means to an end, as a means to bringing about a certain purpose. That evil is the soil that good seed is planted in. That evil is the soil where the glory of the sons of God come to fruition. That you don't have, if you hope for what you see, you know, who hopes for what they already see? But you hope for what you don't see. Well, what did you have to do in order to get that hope? Well, you had to be in a situation where you don't see. You don't see it. You don't see what's coming. You don't see what's on the other side. In order to get there, you've got to have a veil of darkness that covers that, so that you can then go through the process of seeing. So, you know, a lot of people are really worried about that process, but I think it's a demonstration of communicating to free entities created in the image of God, so that they can come to the full knowledge of the truth, so that God can maintain his glory and his character and the integrity of who he really is, so that people can see him for who he really is, in spite of all the darkness that wages war against their perception of him, which is a good thing to do. You know, I have to subject my children to very difficult things in order for them to see what they're capable of. I have to subject my children to certain training in order for them to come into the fruition of what their talents and abilities are, so that they can see for themselves what they have within themselves. When you're born, when you're a child, you don't know anything, period. You don't know yourself, and you don't know the world around you. So a lot of times, you know, like I just had to teach my son how to wield a hatchet to chop some wood. You know, something important to learn. He's going to be 12 here pretty soon. He's going to learn how to wield that hatchet. What? He didn't want to. He was petrified. He's freaked out. This thing is scary. It's got a blade on it. You could cut some folks with that. But then he did it, and he's like, oh, it's not a big deal. He could see that he has this in what he's concerned or afraid of, you know. But would he have ever known that otherwise had I not subjected him to futility? Subjected him to this suffering that he had to overcome, and then in the moment realized he was a lot more powerful than he was a minute ago? So those are the good things that we have in store for ourselves. Those are the promises. And so when we have the heart to receive these promises, we find a lot more than we ever imagined. And that's what's in store for us. That's as a species. I look at the evil that we're all waging war against, and deep state and deep church and institutions. I look at the Roman Catholic Church and I say, Archbishop Vigano there, I would tell him, Bud, God bless you, and God bless all my Roman Catholic friends and brothers and sisters, and I'll call you that. I see you as my brothers and sisters, but I hope you know that from its inception, it is designed to be exactly what it is. It doesn't belong. That institution that you find yourself allied with, and, I believe that you've inherited many good things. I've inherited many good things from that tradition, from that apparatus. That apparatus is not the thing that you think that it is. it maintained a lot of good, but that was to legitimize what was evil behind the scenes that you didn't recognize. I think the Catholic Church was right to redeem a lot of things, like in paganism, to redeem those things for Christ and to say, oh, this is for Christ now. Christmas no longer, the celebration of the birth of Nimrod is now the celebration of the birth of Christ. It's a good intent. There's a good heart behind that. But it's no substitute for the truth. It's no substitute for the fullness of the glory. It's no substitute. You can play games, and it can be fun, but you're really selling yourself short if you think that that's where the end of the road lies. It doesn't go to the doorsteps of the Vatican. It goes to the doorsteps of Mount Moriah. It goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It goes back to Moses and Aaron and Ruth and Gideon and King David and Solomon and the prophets. There's a thread woven through time, different cultures that rise and fall. And then, it weaves its web through all these different experiences of human thought and consciousness and experience, and brings us all to where we are right now, today. God is redeeming all of it. The body of Christ is inside of all of it. The faithful are inside of all of it. And those who are children of God, sons and daughters of God, inheritors of the blessings and throne of God, it's our duty, our responsibility to discern and mine that out of everything where we look. As long as our eyes are open and we can see, as long as our ears are open and we can hear everything that comes into our senses, it's our responsibility to discern the body of Christ everywhere that it is manifest, which is all in all. So I'm going to wrap up by saying this, by reading from Ephesians chapter 1. Paul to the Ephesians says, For this reason I too, having heard of the faith in Yahovah Yeshua, which exists among you, and your love for all the saints, do not cease giving thanks for you, while making mention of you in my prayers, that the Elohim of our Yahovah Yeshua Mashiach, the Father of glory, may give you spirit of wisdom and of revelation in the knowledge of him. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, so that you will know what is the hope of his calling, what are the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints, and what is the surpassing greatness of his power toward us who believe. These are in accordance with the working of the strength of his might, which he brought about in Christ when he raised him from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places, authority and power and dominion and every name that is named, not only in this age but also in the one to come. And he put all things in subjection under his feet, and gave him as head over all things to the church, which is his body, the fullness of him who fills all in all. All right, I was going to do some jamming. I don't think I am. Watching it being here with me. Keep an eye out